everybody, welcome back to the Farm to School Garden. This week in the Farm to School Garden, we're going to be exploring and talking about pollinators and seeds. What's a pollinator? What does it have to do with seed? Well, you're going to find out this week. To begin with, every flower has something inside of it called pollen. You can't really see the pollen in this flower, but you can kind of see how it gets down to the bottom of this part of the flower. The way that the pollen gets there is from another flower, and then pollinators, like bees, put the pollen into the flower. It goes down to this part where there's something called an egg. Did you know a flower has an egg? Isn't that cool? Woo. Once the egg has pollen on it, it becomes a seed, and then the seed gets planted. But how does a pollinator get pollen on it? Well, imagine this pollinator is on another flower and it goes to it because it smells so sweet. The animal smells the nectar. Usually pollinators are flying insects or birds. They could be bees, they could be beetles, hummingbirds. They go in for the nectar, but all inside the flower is pollen. It's kind of like, have you guys ever eaten these cheese puffs? And what happens to your fingers after you eat them, right? You get all of that sticky stuff on them. Well, bees and other insects get the pollen all caught on their little feet. And so when they go to the next flower, they drop off the pollen they got from the first flower. The pollen goes down the tube, hits the egg, and then turns into a seed. Isn't that interesting? Now, the way the seed gets planted is that seed then develops fruit around it. The fruit is a protection, but also a way of planting the seed, right? So every time we see something in the garden that has flowers on it, if it's a fruiting plant like a watermelon or a squash or a cucumber, first it has the flower, then it gets pollinated, and a seed develops. To protect that seed, the plant develops fruit around it. So we know that seeds get planted by us, but how do seeds get planted in nature? So animals help us again. Do you see our little watermelons in the back? And the bunny ate them? What happens is sometimes creatures, like little bunnies or squirrels or deer, will eat the fruit and have the seed inside of them. And then what do bunnies do? They hop off. The bunny hops off and leaves its poop in the ground somewhere. And then that decomposes into the ground and turns into a watermelon somewhere else. So nature uses animals to spread its seeds. Also, seeds can get caught on our socks or in our shoes, and we help spread seed. The wind really helps spread seed, and so plants can be planted far and wide because of the wind. So that's what pollinators have to do with seeds. We have a few activities of seed gathering and exploring seeds in the garden. I hope you enjoy. One activity that you're going to do in the garden this week is to gather seeds. Do you know what this plant is? Maybe you've seen it in the garden. Doesn't look like any fruit or vegetable that we know of. These are actually seed pods, and they're seed pods for kale. Do you remember kale? Kale looks like this. These are some kale leaves of fresh kale. When a plant is done for the season, it will bolt or go to seed. That means it starts putting its energy into producing seeds, so there's seeds for new plants for next season. So all of these plants that you see in the garden are kale plants with little pods. This week, what we're going to do is we're going to break open the pods, take the seeds out, and put them in packs so you can take them home and plant them in your garden. I'll show you how. To collect kale seeds, you'll need to harvest a bunch of pods from the kale plant. Then you'll need to collect the seeds Do you see how tiny they are? I find it helpful to use a measuring cup or a bowl to gather them in before I put them in the seed pack. They open super easy. You don't really have to put much pressure on them. You kind of crack them open and let the seeds fall in. Do that a bunch of times until you get quite a bit of seeds. Sometimes the pods are already broken open. And once you have a bunch, I'd get more than this, but once you have a bunch, you're going to then put them in a little packet. You put the kale seeds in this tiny little envelope. Once you have all the seeds you want in your little pouch, make sure to tape it up really well. Once you've made your little inner pack, you're going to set that aside. And then you're going to do some decorating. There's an outer seed pack cover. See all this blank space? This is where you are going to draw a picture of kale. Here's a reminder of what it looks like. It's really kind of curly and leafy, and of course green. Do you see all the veins in it? So you're going to draw a picture on this part of the seed pack. Once you have your picture the way you like it, your counselor can help you to tape the seed pack up on the bottom and then on the side. Then you're going to take the little seed pack that you so carefully taped up, put it inside the bigger seed pack, and then tape the top shut. And then you have your own packet of kale seeds. All the information for planting them is on the outside of the packet. It says how far apart they should be, how deep they should be, and how much sun and water kale needs. Also, it says at the bottom, plant mid-April. Kale is called a cold weather crop, which means they will grow when a lot of other plants won't grow because it's too cold. The next activity you're going to do in the garden this week is make sachets. The sachets that you're going to make this week are from lavender flowers and lavender seeds. Seeds not only make fruit and help spread the plant, but seeds are all The first step in making the sachets is harvesting the lavender. Look at all this beautiful lavender. Before harvesting, I definitely recommend rubbing your hands on the lavender and then smelling it. It's such a delightful smell, and that's why we're using it in the sachets. You don't need very much lavender because it is a strong smell. You need about 3 sprigs worth. What's a sprig? This is a sprig of lavender. You need about 3 of these worth. And I'll show you how you get the lavender off of the stalk. The way you get the best method for getting the lavender seeds off of the stalk is by gently pushing them off. Take it in your hand like this and gently push down like this. Sometimes they're a little stubborn. Remember, we're doing 3. That was 1. That's 2. And here is number 3. Now, I'm going to add about a cup of rice to this. Rice makes things kind of heavy and also absorbs the smell. So there's my cup of rice. I'm adding it, and then I'm going to use my finger to stir it around, although it doesn't really matter because once it's in the sachet, I can mix it up more. So a sachet looks kind of like this. I've made these for you. And this is something, if you're learning to sew, they're really easy to make. It's like making a pillow, you just don't sew the top shut. Super simple. And then you take your mixture and you add it And then this is the part where you can kind of mix it up. And then you or your counselor, if you're not good at tying bows, can tie a bow with the ribbon. And then you have a sachet. Ta-da! Have fun working with seeds this week and let me know what pollinator friends you see in the garden.